So the first time I was introduced to drugs was when a friend of mine had gotten addicted to a substance, and this friend had his entire life going for him. Academics, could have gone to some really good colleges, sports. He again could have had a really good commitments, but I'm afraid that this infestation of drugs in his life tore him apart, tore his future apart, tore his family apart, tore his life apart. He began to drink and smoke, which led his family, deeply separated. And this is why I never touched drugs or vaped or drank since that day of knowing what he was going through. And what about everyone else? And there's a statistic out there by the National Center of Drug Abuse that states that 2.08 million, or roughly 8% of 12 to 17-year-olds nationwide in America report using drugs in the last month, which is just devastating. Just knowing that 8% of people between my ages do drugs in the last month. It's devastating, which leads us in today's question, which is, what steps can the international community take in order to combat Mexico's increasing rates of drug violence? Well, we know here in America, we can simply teach the youth and have campaigns about say no to drugs and all that sorts of things. But in Mexico, where some parts are ruled by the cartel, for example, in Tamaulipas, where violence has spiked in a new turf war between Los Zetas and other drug trafficking organizations, among the cartels appear to be unrevealing, and other organizations where they just attack each other and really ruin regions throughout Mexico. And even to go into that fact of not just drug violence, there's other forms of crime, including kidnapping, extortion, and that's all relating to, I guess, drug trafficking and that, or drug violence for that example. So what is the solution here? Well, there's only really one solution we can really do to take steps on how the international community can take to combat the Mexico's increasing rate of drug violence, which is to provide economic support to fund an intelligence agency or a military agency, just like the FBI, to break down the cartel network, not just at the heads, but at the network as a whole. The government previously enforced a policy of decapitation, which focused on limiting high-value targets, the heads of the cartels, and deploying military patrols to the streets, but it failed at its most basic goal, which was to boost public safety. I mean, even here in America, where we see soldiers on the streets, it ruins the representation of America and our freedoms. But despite this unending parade of captured or killed narcos, which are cartel, the policy actually guaranteed new turf was among the cartels or the territory and corruption networks who try to capitalize on recently decapitated rivals. So crucially, the Mexican government has realized that it needs a manufactured response to serious organized crime, for example, drug violence. It has begun replacing the decapitation strategy with one that focuses more on the entire networks, not just the heads. Such a policy requires law enforcement and intelligent apparatus that have a robust investigate capacity and reasonably free of corruption. Mexico currently has neither, but America assistance and the international community can help. Tunisia, for example, provides a model of how to deploy the military in trouble spots instead of soldiers who often lack mandate or have the ability to conduct systematic investigations. Newly vetted police units can take the lead in providing safety on the streets and conducting investigations. The military can be deployed in background to supplement the police if they are subject to intense violence for the narcos, which are the cartels. The state will need to build links to the society, the civil society, just like here in America, where we had that divide, to persuade the population that I can provide them with public goods and social services better than the narcos can, which are the cartel. Such bonds between the community and the state are what, at the end of the day, will allow the state to prevail over the cartels. To this effect, the current president of Mexico has unveiled a host of social programs oriented towards bringing jobs, education, public spaces to certain different regions where there's high cartel in the area, this overall strategy needs to be extended throughout Mexico. But how do we get this all through? And it all comes down to the amount of funding that Mexico is able to receive, again, through the international community. So to really sum this up, finally, to both decrease unemployment and this drug violence that I stated above, more police and military personnel are needed, just as I stated above, juicing officers in the Mexico Federal Police, just like the FBI, dedicated to enacting to ending the organized crime, would increase the state's strength, therefore weaken the regional power of the cartels. A stronger police force would also help ensure cartel members are indicted for offenses to increase the number of police officers. The government needs incentives and listing. Increased officer wages will make the job more appealing and would also reduce bribes. So if the international community would donate, would say a sum of money of, just like the FBI budget, if we were to compare this, about roughly three-fourths of that budget to Mexico's federal agency, the Mexico government can then advance on the end to drug violence in the Mexican community. And if not, then this cannot simply be achieved. And to really get on that point is that you can't really do anything in life without money. You need money to fund anything. You need money to do whatever cause you want to do. And in this case, our cause is to end drug violence. And the only way to do that is to receive international support through the funding of the Mexico Federal Agency. Thank you.